And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today, sharing a little dialogue with those of you who were able to join us for the live portion, taking a look at the news and the insanity that is our world. If you are listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ScrewTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University, at Coffee Talk Live at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat and fistfulofradio.com. Podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And as always, I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. So I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far. I see Spectre is here, as well as Helter, Dragon, Brian, who for some reason remembers that I worked at Family Dollar one time. Sean is here from Northern Illinois. Tuck is here, as well as Camilla. And Tuck reminds us, thumbs up, please. Yes, if you don't mind, I'll take all the help I can get. All the help I can get. Yeah, Brian says Family Dollar, Walmart, UPS. I've had a lot of hats, and they don't match. Raccoon is here as we get ready to jump off into the realm of the ridiculous, as I say. Being joined today by Miss Kitty, who, for those of you who can see, is snoozing away in the chair behind me, having her cat nap, which is about 12 hours out of the day at least. And Fluke Man has joined us. That's actually about standard for a cat. 12 to 16 hours. 12 to 16 hours. Although 12 is better than 16, because if they sleep past that 12, they're probably bored. Anyways, as we jump into the media, and we're going to take a look at something from Rough Draft Atlanta. This is a local story, and I don't know if any of you have seen this yet. I think this is actually pretty interesting. Local story, but it's talking about something that affects everyone nationally. It has national implications, although it's a local story. And no, it's not about the Trump trial. So Rough Draft Atlanta. The Democratic National Committee and Democratic Party of Georgia are suing to block rule changes that the plaintiffs say would let the state election board delay or prevent certification of election results in November. Get ready for this explanation. The lawsuit filed on Monday in Fulton County Superior Court takes aim at rule changes to state election laws that the Republican-controlled board approved. It's got nothing to do with the fact that it's mostly Republicans on the board, as you'll see here in a moment. But you know they can't help but tell you that. Approved in recent weeks, allowing for local election officials to conduct reasonable inquiries before certifying election results if they suspect any type of fraud. The Democrats also are challenging a new rule that lets county election board members examine all election-related documentation created during the conduct of elections prior to certification of results. Through rulemaking, SEB has attempted to turn the straightforward and mandatory act of certification, confirmation of the accurate tabulation of the votes cast, into a broad license for board members to hunt for purported election irregularities of any kind, potentially delaying certification and displacing longstanding and court-supervised processes for addressing fraud, the suit states. The lawsuit was filed on the same day Georgia Democrats and civil rights leaders held a news conference calling on Republican Governor Brian Kemp to remove the 3 GOP state elected board members who voted for the rules changes. So the board voted for having more scrutiny in the election process, basically because there were accusations of fraud at the last election, and it was focused on Georgia as well as a few other places. The Georgia Election Board voted, okay, well, we will empower county election boards to verify before submitting official numbers, basically. Okay? So now the Democrats calling for those board members to be terminated for voting for it, and they want the law overturned so that the numbers can be submitted without verifying whether they're authentic votes or not. And Rodney's joined us. And Sean says UPS technically for 23 years employed. Oh, you're at UPS, you mean, Sean? I worked there for a couple of years in the loading department. Rodney says the Democrats have vested interest in weak scrutiny of the voting process. Basically, that's what that is. It's like saying, we know we don't have a chance if we might get caught cheating, so we want you to overturn your law that allows for county officials to verify voting results. Who doesn't want you to verify voting results? Except for someone who's being unscrupulous. Dragon says another frivolous lawsuit. This shows what lengths politicians are willing to go to stall the election. Not only are they sitting there trying to overturn a law that allows for the counties to verify whether or not votes are legitimate, but they want the people who voted in favor of that to be terminated. You want to take their job so you can replace them with somebody who's even more corrupt? Is that the idea? That's one of those things, like if it was anything else, you would sit there and say, well, what do you have to hide? What do you have to hide? That's like a bank not being required to verify whether or not incoming cash is counterfeit. Oh, no, we ain't worried about it. We'll find out about it later if anybody returns the cash. Yeah, sure, that'll happen. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. Georgia did that to take steps to positively verify votes as they come in because of the accusations. They're trying to at least look like they're cleaning things up. And you want to take even that away. You want to take even that away. It says Democrats accused the 3 board members praised by former President Trump during a recent rally in Atlanta of laying the groundwork for Trump to capture Georgia's 16 electoral votes, even if he doesn't prevail at the ballot box. How is he supposed to capture them? Unless you had it set up that he wasn't going to win somehow. You see what I'm saying? So if you're suggesting that he would capture those votes through some type of fraud, then these measures would catch that. And you want those measures taken away? Is there something about this I'm not understanding? That doesn't make any sense. And Dental is here. He says top of the day. And Jane Spitfire is here as well. Glad you could join us today as we prattle on. Oh my God. Quote, in no way do these rules interfere with anyone's right to vote or cause undue burdens on election workers, according to McCoon. These steps will ensure transparency, accountability, accurate reporting, and reconciliation, and prevention of the right for both parties to observe, or preservation, for the right of both parties to observe the processing of ballots, which is why they claim they passed that law in the first place, but now Democrats want the law undone. We don't want you to be able to accurately count votes and verify where they came from is literally what this is saying. Literally what this lawsuit is saying. And this lawsuit is coming directly, from the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party of Georgia are the ones filing this lawsuit. So the federal and state branches of the Democratic Party or Democrat Party, excuse me, are the ones that are filing this lawsuit to stop Georgia from making attempts to verify where votes come from, to certify whether they're legitimate. That's pretty shady. I think that's pretty shady. That's really questionable behavior. That's really questionable behavior. Fearing, according to the article, that it would make Trump a shoo-in. Why do you think everyone in Georgia is going to vote for him? And you're trying to block that? Is that the idea? That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like you're doing. I just don't know. I don't know what to say about that. It's incredible the stuff these people come up with as we move around here. Speaking of Democrats and corruption, and that's a story that should be national, not just local Atlanta news. That's a story that should be national. Hey, they're coming to a battleground state, as it's called, and trying to prevent local authorities from validating votes. Very suspicious behavior. Now, I'm sure you've heard this one, and we've talked about this before, only now there's official confirmation from Zuckerberg himself, and this is a Daily Caller article. Mark Zuckerberg admits the Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor content, and he now expresses regret. And there's Lieutenant Commander Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, the android, the lizard man. So here we go, and this is yesterday's news. Mark Zuckerberg expressed regret Monday that Facebook caved to pressure by the Biden-Harris administration to censor content. Zuckerberg admitted in a letter to House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan that senior Biden administration officials, quote, repeatedly pressured Facebook teams to suppress C-virus content that the platform otherwise would not have restricted, and expressed frustration when Facebook disagreed. Zuckerberg told Jordan he now feels strongly that the platform should not compromise its standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. Quote, I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it, Zuckerberg wrote. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Zuckerberg wrote that Facebook is ready to push back if something like this happens again. Which people on the inside at Facebook have been admitting this, saying that they were receiving a lot of pressure from the executive branch of the White House to make changes, to alter context, to remove posts, to fact check things that weren't true. I mean, the fact checking wasn't true, not that the posts were. And Semper Fi has joined us today. Glad you could make it. It says, goes on to say, Zuckerberg also conceded in the letter that the platform should not have censored the New York Post's Hunter Biden laptop story, noting that the FBI had warned the platform about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family in Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. Quote, that fall, we saw a New York Post study reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family. We sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply, he wrote. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. Basically, they were also coerced into blocking anything involving Hunter Biden. And the stuff that they were told to block has now turned out to be true. Dragon says as he admits that as he admits that and plays the "I'm sorry" card, he just keeps censoring people even more. Even right now, as we speak, he is massively censoring people, and no one is forcing him to do so. That's true, because their fact-checking services, they've already admitted, is opinion mostly. Nothing is actually fact-checked. Tuck says, has Zuckersaurus started to feel the weight of being despised by a billion or so humans? Perhaps. And Helter says he basically perjured himself before Congress. He's not going to face any legal consequences for his part in the censorship campaign. Probably not. And Eric Peters said, not a moment too soon, Zuck. No kidding. Glad you finally got around to that. That's something that he should have come out with if he had any scruples at all when it happened. Hey, Facebook community, we're being forced to do this by the executive branch of the White House. Take it up with them. He could have called it. He could have called it. Flukeman says, why would Zuckerman regret and admit it now? How did the Biden Dominions make Z do anything that he didn't want to do unless they paid him? I'm sure he has been paid, but just forgot to mention it. He's admitting it now because there's no hiding it anymore. People in executive positions within Facebook have been admitting this, whistleblowing on it for the last few months. And we have read a couple of stories here on that in the last few months where executives from Facebook have been coming forward and saying, hey, yeah, the Biden administration made us do this. The executive branch made us do that. The FBI threatened us with this. So he can't deny it anymore. So now he can sit there and pretend to regret it, pretend he's sorry, to cover his own ass in case anything else comes up. Semper Fi says, Facebook fact-checked me for posting a picture about suicide prevention, and their AI said it was promoting. Took 3 days for a person to review and admit they were wrong. If a person ever did review it and it wasn't just another bot. Inspector says he's saying this because he knows Trump will be back in office. Oh, no. Yeah, that's a possibility. That is a possibility. Because maybe he is nervous that Trump gets back in office and he's like, oh, wow, I'll have to deal with that now. Tuck says he may have just realized he can be left swinging like anyone else. The useful idiots usually don't realize they're useful idiots until they're no longer useful. That's true as well. That is true as well. Oh, update on the felines, real quick personal news before we get on to the national or international news again. Reached out to another organization called Fur Kids, and they're local, also a big no-kill shelter. And they have expressed interest in 3 of the felines that we're taking care of. But I don't know if they're going to take them or not. Don't know if they're going to take them or not. So I'm still doing outreach. I'm still checking local shelters, and I'm checking other groups to see if there's any way I can unload or at least get some of these cats taken care of. Again, for many of you are aware who watch regularly that we have 20 that we're taking care of, and that we were working with a shelter, but they left us hanging. We got 3 adults that we were supposed to bring them that have already been spayed and neutered and had shots and everything. And we have the feral mama with her kittens, and we were supposed to bring the kittens. And then they just, for no explanation whatsoever, cut us off. Email, phone blocked. And it's like, what the hell? You asked us for these animals, and now where are you? Where are you? And so I've been reaching around. I reached out to Paws. Paws wants me to pay them to take them. So we're still working on that. It's a big expense. It's a lot to deal with and a lot to work on. And, we're well over our capacity, quite frankly. And I love them all, and I don't mind taking care of them, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work with that many, 20. And like I said, we got 5 kittens, 6 if you count Monkey, who was the burned cat that was found in the engine of a car, you might recall. So the 5 kittens, that would put us to 15. The 3 adults, That would put us to 12. You get the idea. And then I could work on, if I can get somebody to do the spaying and neutering, catch and release of the others from the clouder. Clouder, of course, is a family of cats that are living in the backwoods there, just to prevent them from, I'm trying to keep 20 from turning into 60, which can happen very quickly if you're not careful. And then that's a whole new ball game. It's been tough. It's been tough. And they really left us out. They left us hung out to dry, unfortunately. Brian said he'd take them all if I could. I bet you. I wish I could keep them all. We just don't have the space or the expenses. You know, it's like $100 a week just on food. It's just, and there's no help. Well, there is some help. I shouldn't say that, because people do make donations to the channel. I mean, locally, there's no help. People do donate sometimes, and it helps a great deal with taking care of them. But locally, you know, we had a source, and now that source bailed on us with no explanation. Jane says, me too. I used to have Siamese and big black cat as a teen. And John has joined us and says he's a cat fan. Absolutely. And we love them all. We love them all. And like I said, I wish I could just keep them all. And hell, you know, I might could if I could get them all fixed, so that, again, I don't end up with 60 of them. 20 is enough. 20 is enough. They sure are great for keeping rodents and snakes out of the yard, I'll tell you that. Holy crap. But yeah, so I reached out to another organization, and they expressed interest in helping with 3 of the adults. 3 of the adults, but those adults are already fixed and with shots. So they're taking the easy way out. As we move on here, we get back to the regular news. I just wanted to catch that up a little bit, because I know a lot of people are curious about the cats. I haven't posted anything on Stray Cat Sanctuary, the other channel, recently either. At Stray Cat Sanctuary 1945. I don't know why it's 1945. YouTube just did that to me instead of letting it be Stray Cat Sanctuary. I guess because the channel's not monetized, they don't care what I think. But well, they don't care what I think on this channel either. But anyways, that's where we are. Hopefully I hear something back, and hopefully they don't try to charge me for that, because that's just not in the budget for me to pay them to take them. And Tuck says, cat food shot up in price just like everything else. I'm going to start fishing to knock down our grocery bill and cat bill. Yeah, it did. It did jump up quite a bit. The price of the food. Often I do try to go to the flea market on, you know, if you go to the flea market, especially on Sunday, sometimes you can find bulk cat food for a much cheaper price. And so I do that from time to time. But, you know, it's been a challenge. Everything was going smoothly until they cut us off, because they had helped us with 7 kittens last year. 7 kittens adopted, 3 adults adopted, and 4 other cats fixed. And so we were poised to basically eventually hand them over another 8 to 10 cats, and they asked for, and then screwed us over. But back to the actual national news. Daily Caller article, and there's everybody's golden girl. She went from cringe to cool in 24 hours. She's going to save the world because she's a black female. Kamala Harris used to think that the border wall was un-American. Now, suddenly she supports it. Vice President Kamala Harris has reversed her position on spending hundreds of millions of dollars to build a wall along the southern border, Axios reported Tuesday, if I pronounce that correctly. Harris is now in favor of building a wall after being attacked repeatedly by former President Trump for presiding over an unprecedented surge in illegal immigration into the U.S. as the Biden administration's unofficial, quote, border czar, according to Axios. Prior to her second run for the presidency, Harris has called the border wall un-American, a stupid waste of money and Trump's medieval vanity project. Those are quotes. And yes, she did run for president twice, but last time she couldn't even get 1% interest, and she was asked by the Democratic Party to step down. You might recall that. But those are quotes from her. Un-American, a stupid waste of money, and a medieval vanity project of Donald Trump. Harris now backs the bipartisan border bill proposed in February, which would require hundreds of millions of unspent public dollars to be spent on further construction of a border wall. The office of Republican Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, one of the lawmakers who negotiated the bill, projected that the bill would spend $650 million on wall construction, a far cry from the $18 billion Trump wanted for the border wall in 2018. Well, you're probably going to build a lot less wall than he intended. Also, the leftover materials from the original wall project were sold for pennies on the dollar by the Biden administration. Now they got to buy it again. Jane says, "Oh wow, Kamala Harris is wanting a border wall now. About time." Well, she wants it now because she says she wants it now after panning it before for years, because she thinks it's going to get her votes. People are concerned about the influx of immigration, all the illegal aliens and all the migrants, concerned about it. So now she's going to pretend to care too. The flip-flop on the border is the latest instance of Harris and her team distancing the vice president from the left-wing positions that she previously endorsed, such as banning fracking and supporting a Medicare for all healthcare system. The Harris campaign has made an effort to present Harris as tough on crime and somewhat hawkish on the border in recent weeks, with one advertisement related earlier in August depicting images of Trump's border wall while a narrator speaks about her record as a border state prosecutor, which would have been California, obviously. And, oh yeah, now she's flip-flopped on the fracking too. I'm glad they mentioned that, because she was dead set against it. Now it's like, oh yeah, maybe fracking is not such a bad idea. You think? John says he's not voting. He's going to have tacos instead. And Dragon says Kamala has no credibility. I'm not surprised of her flip-flopping. No, but you know what, Dragon? People are still going to vote for her. A lot of people are still going to vote for her, even though she has no credibility. She's never demonstrated ethics or transparency or credibility or any moral values. And she doesn't stand by whatever she claims to, because she will flip-flop on it. As you see, she's flip-flopped on the border. She's already flipping, as well as a few other things. But people will still sit there and say, oh, but she's a black woman. I'm going to vote for her because, wow, women power. We need more women. And she's black, and, you know, she's a different ethnicity. And because Trump said, grab a pussy once. You know, that's the thing that kills me the most about Trump when that argument comes up. He talked about grabbing a pussy. Okay. You never said any kind of stupid off-color thing to be funny ever in your life that maybe wasn't so much so? It's amazing they want to hold someone to a standard that goes to. I think that's hilarious. People say stupid things. I've said a lot of dumb things. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't mean it to sound like that, or I can see where someone's going to take that wrong. I think everybody does that. But there we go. It says goes on to say, I'll finish this up, the Biden-Harris administration has overseen a crisis at the border that started after the administration walked back several key policies the Trump administration instituted since 2021. There have been at least 6.7 million encounters with migrants at the southern border and 8 million encounters nationwide. And when they say nationwide, they're counting northern and southern border. That's 8 million encounters, and that's just the ones that they know about. You have to imagine for every person that has crossed the border and gotten caught or vetted, there has to be at least one more who got through and nobody saw. That gives you some pretty scary numbers when you add it all up. But like I said, people are still going to vote for her, even though they know she's bad. They know she's worse than Trump. They know it. Deep down inside, they're aware that she can't be relied on. But they'll vote for her anyways because either her gender or her skin color. Just ask Bernie Sanders. As a matter of fact, let's do that. ABC News. Kamala Harris will win the popular vote by millions, according to Bernie Sanders. There, he said it. Two-time presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders predicted that the campaign ahead will be rough, but said he believes that Vice President Kamala Harris has a very good chance to win the presidential election. Quote, she's certainly going to win the popular vote by millions of votes, and I think she has a great chance to win many of the battleground states, Sanders told This Week co-anchor John Carl on Sunday. I think people are growing tired and fatigued with Trump's consistent and outrageous lies. And I think no matter what people may think of Kamala Harris, I think they want stability in the White House. We don't have stability now, and she's already there, Bernie. She's been there almost 4 years, and we do not have stability now. So if we keep her for another 4 years, we get stability somehow? Explain that. I must have missed something. There must be something I don't understand that Bernie knows. And I'm surprised, actually, to see Bernie still supporting these people after what they did to him. You do realize that when he was running alongside Hillary, they bumped him. Both times, actually, that he was running, they pulled him off the ticket. Two-time presidential nominee. They pulled him off the ticket and made him endorse the other Democrat. And he still kisses their asses. He still kisses their asses. Tuck says Trump's comment was light years short of the Andrew Gillum event. He ran against DeSantis. He OD'd on ice in a hotel during a snuggle session, let's say, an all boys event. And Sean says, why don't you just go Ross Perot? Yeah. Ross Perot, I think, actually would have won if he didn't drop out and then get back into the race again afterwards, because then it looked like he flip-flopped. It looked like he didn't have a backbone. It's like, don't quit and then come back. Stay your ass in there or leave. I think that's what screwed up Ross Perot. So he goes on to say, the United States is now spending more than the next 10 nations combined on defense. I agree with the vice president. We want the strongest defense in the world, but I do think enough is enough. You're seeing military contractors' profits soaring, and I think we can have the strongest defense in the world without spending $1 trillion a year. This goes to show you that he's not doing his job. How many times have I read these numbers? You've heard me count off these numbers before. And military spending is actually in like 5th place, I believe. And it's not $1 trillion. And as a matter of fact, we've spent less in the last cycle than previous years, I think. It's about $842 billion. I want to say. But the biggest numbers are Social Security, Medicaid, welfare, number two, combined welfare numbers, or is no, yeah. Then it's the interest on the national debt paid to the Federal Reserve is number three. Public school is number four, which is a total failure of a system. And then the military budget's number five. And that's what you want to complain about, the military budget. And then you overestimate that budget by like more than $150 billion, saying that we spend over $1 trillion a year. No, we don't. Bernie, are you doing your job? Do you know what your job is? Have you lost your mind yet? Fluke Man says, I'm sure there are many non-white women who would make an excellent president. They don't need degrees from Harvard. Common sense, general knowledge, common decency, and has traveled the world would be good enough. Yeah, I mean, like, again, I've said it before. I don't have a problem with someone being a different color than me or a different gender than me being in office, but be able to do the job. Dragon says, making fun of Bernie, says the two-time presidential candidate who said Hillary was going to beat Trump. Yeah. Hey, maybe that's the death knell. Maybe Bernie is a big jinx. So every time he says somebody's going to succeed, they actually fail. And they sit there and they're like, Bernie, please, no, don't endorse me. Okay, come on now. Bernie's a jinx. Bernie's a jinx. Raccoon says, oh no, that sounds like Hillary. Yeah. He's not even right with these numbers. And then he wants to attack the military spending. I think he forgets the rest of the world hates America. We need all the military coverage we can get. Trust me. And you can cut, and Trump was trying to cut it back because he was trying to get us out a lot of foreign bases where we don't need to be anyways. And he was trying to get us out of the NATO contract. You know how much that'll save us? Are you kidding? Good Lord. Here we go. Bernie Sanders again. Quote, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of this country. Not necessarily true at all. So I happen to believe it is important that we end the embarrassment of having the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. That's not true either. God, the guy. And you know what? The thing is, even if somebody calls Bernie out on those statements, it won't make a difference. It's not like he's going to admit he was wrong. I was wrong about how much we spend on the military. I was wrong about the wealth inequality gap being bigger in the United States than anywhere else. Been to Saudi Arabia lately? Bernie, have you? Or any of these other, especially second and third world countries? Do you know what you're talking? Have you ever been outside the United States? Has he? I'm not sure, actually. Has he? Or, is it like a cruise ship kind of thing? And he's on the resort, sunning himself on the beach. I can't imagine Bernie sunning himself anywhere. He'd probably catch fire. But seriously, is that the endorsement that you want? I think Bernie's a jinx. That's what it is. And if he endorses you, you're doomed. Maybe that's what we needed, was Bernie's endorsement for Kamala Harris. Bernie for Harris. Put it on a t-shirt. Put it on a t-shirt. But yeah, Bernie thinks she's gonna win by millions of votes if she can stay sober long enough. Because there are a lot of rumors coming out of the White House from people that have worked with her that she is an alcoholic. It's speculation. Don't know if it's true, but that she is an alcoholic. Okay? And that it's hard to keep her from throwing a few back before she goes out and talks. And she does behave verbally and with body language like someone who is tipsy. She does behave like someone who's tipsy. Okay. So it would be interesting. It would be interesting to find out that she was an alcoholic. So she can drink her vodka, and Tim can drink his horse semen. Jane says her skin looks like she drinks a lot. Her skin looks like she drinks a lot. That's a possibility. So they can sit down and hopefully they won't mix the drinks up. There's no proof that Tim drinks horse semen either. But a lot of people have said that he does. Remains to be seen. It's speculation until you can prove it. It's speculation until you can prove it that Kamala Harris is a drunk. But wouldn't it be something if she really got sloshed before the debate and she goes out there and giggles and sways back and forth and everybody looks at her and goes, God, she's drunk. Flukeman says less money for the military, but more for illegal immigrants. That's what the British Prime Minister is doing, raising taxes. Well, you're in the UK. You bet they're going to raise taxes. They knew that. They knew that way back when. You remember that famous Monty Python sketch where they're in the boardroom trying to decide what new tax to create. And Tuck says, Grody to the max waltz. No kidding. Grody to the max. You're giving me flashbacks of the 80s. You're going to start singing Valley Girl here in a minute. You remember Valley Girl. Frank Zappa wrote that. That's a Frank Zappa song. And then he refused to sing it because it was supposed to be a parody of the Valley lifestyle, and they adopted it as their anthem. Jane says that they're interested in hearing the debate and see what they do with mics open or closed. It should be closed so that neither of them can interrupt. Because it really puts Trump in a bad spot. And I've mentioned that before because I've been asked about that before. I think you asked also, Jane, didn't you? That if it's open and he cuts her off, then he's being a chauvinist and he's being rude. If she cuts him off and he says nothing and tries to be a gentleman about it, then he's a coward. He's afraid of Kamala. So it's a lose-lose proposition for him. Eric Peter says, truthfully, I think it could be a reason she's not doing interviews. Can't blame people for being curious. Yeah, no kidding. They're probably afraid if she does have a drinking problem, it would be difficult to just keep rolling her out in public because you can't manage her once she's out in front of the camera. You can't manage her. So we move around here. Health and Me article. Here it comes. Mpox outbreak, which of course is monkeypox. The WHO unveils its strategic response plan to curb the spread. Oh, here we go. World Health Organization on Monday unveiled a global strategic preparedness and response plan, and that is the title, aimed at curbing the spread of human-to-human transmission of Mpox. The initiative came as the health agency declared Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox. Oh, that's funny. That's like when I say X, formerly known as Twitter. It's Mpox, formerly known as Epox. The artist, formerly known as Prince, as a global health emergency on August 14th after it spread to nearly 18 countries. They don't tell you that like 20 people have it, but it spread to 18 countries. Those 18 countries probably already had it. You can find examples of it in almost every country, can't you? Covering the period from September to February 2025, the plan outlines a funding requirement of $135 million that I'm sure the U.S. will end up paying for. The funds will support coordinated global, regional, and national efforts involving WHO, member states, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, communities, researchers, and other partners, who is set to launch a funding appeal soon to secure the resources needed to implement the plan effectively. WHO's plan focuses on implementing comprehensive surveillance, so they're going to spy on you. Prevention, they're going to make you wear a mask. Readiness, they're going to hire people to spy on you. And response strategies, shots. Advancing research and equitable access to medical countermeasures like diagnostic tests and vaccines, minimizing animal to human transmission, and empowering communities to actively participate in outbreak prevention and control. Lockdowns. Strategic vaccination efforts will focus on individuals at the highest risk, including close contact of recent cases and healthcare workers, to interrupt the transmission chains. Yeah, like what they basically did to us during the C virus pandemic. Here's your new pandemic. And the big question, of course, is, are people going to fall for it again? Guess what? The answer is yes. Yes, they're going to fall for it again because people are stupid. Back to the article. This comes as Africa is set to receive the first batch of its Mpox vaccine this week, because everybody experiments on Africa because nobody gives a shit about them. Just ask Bill Gates. The continent, which is the epicenter of the viral outbreak, will receive 10,000 jabs donated by the US, of course. Vaccines have already been made available in more than 70 countries outside of Africa, but a long-drawn approval from the World Health Organization for the procurement of jabs has made the life-saving jab inaccessible in African countries. No, it's inaccessible in African countries because they tried to resist it. Because every time anybody tests any shots out there, they end up dying. And I don't blame them for wanting to back off of that. Legend says took the day off to help someone out by looking over their dog, took him home to find out mine can't stand him. Any advice? Oh, wow. Is your dog not used to being around other animals? It's probably scared. And, you know, if they're scared, they're going to overreact. Really, you're going to have to try to keep them separated until they can calm down. Way between them. Let your dog know he's not being replaced, and let the new dog know he's not going to get jumped. Fluke Man says, is Mpox the same reason why bed bugs were spreading? people from third world lack general hygiene, and eating that's probably meat with this infected with all sorts of diseases. Yes, actually, places where there was heavy amounts of migration, so to speak, saw an uptick in bed bugs, fleas, all kinds of personal insects, head lice, things like that. And who's this? Prepson is here. Prepson has joined us. So yeah, there was a big surge in those areas. You saw it in Paris and New York. And yeah, there are hygiene concerns with a lot of people who come in from many of these regions of the world. We're starting to see hygiene concerns building up with the current generation of natural-born American citizens. Why do you think you keep seeing all these advertisements for all-over body deodorants now? You don't see ads for underarm deodorants anymore. It's all-over body deodorants. You can spray it everywhere, even down there, as the commercial emphasizes. Why do we need to spray our whole body with deodorant now? Because we don't freaking wash up properly. Not me, not you, but that's getting to be a problem with the younger generation. They don't bathe regularly anymore. And the reason, again, that we were encouraged to bathe regularly, that was not a common thing in the Western world until almost the 1950s. And that's what stopped the spread of polio. It stopped the spread of smallpox. It wasn't the vaccines that did it. It was regular hygiene. And now we've been moving away from that. I saw an ad the other day. They're pushing for spray-on shampoo, dry spray-on shampoo. How the hell does that work? You can't get your hair wet? Scared of water, you're scared of soap. But here we go. Here's your latest rounds of sheeple indoctrination, smallpox, not smallpox, monkeypox. Oh, Fluke Man says, sorry, I meant eating M for monkey. They eat monkey. They do eat monkey meat in a lot of places. They do eat that. They do eat that. That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. Some of the stuff that people eat in other countries you wouldn't believe anyways. You wouldn't believe it. But anyways, as we shift around here to South Africa, another man-made problem that they're going to try to solve by overdoing it. And that is, this is an earth.com article. Weird stuff. South Africa will be bombing invasive mice that have been eating seabirds. So nestled in the sapphire blue expanse of the Indian Ocean, around 2,000 kilometers to Cape Town, sits a remote island. This far-flung location, known as Marion Island, is where an unnerving drama is unfolding. Mice are feasting on seabirds, particularly the albatross. Now, I'll tell you right now, anywhere on places like that you find mice or rats, they're there because people brought them there. Okay, this is not some place that's indigenous to mice. It's one of those remote islands where seabirds go to nest and lay eggs because nobody's out there to bother them. It's overrun with mice now, and it's humans' faults for being irresponsible in the first place. As a result of this, and it says right here, a whole quarter of the world's population of these birds prefer this Indian Ocean island for the nesting abode, but now the creatures are under threat from unexpected source. Hordes of house mice, outlandishly oblivious to the natural pecking order, are preying on the majestic birds by nibbling on their eggs, and shockingly, the adult birds themselves. So now, as a result, the birds are seeing reductions in their population. And Dilo has joined us. Glad you could make it today. The birds are seeing reductions in their population. They're becoming endangered because there's so many mice on the island that they're literally eating them alive. They're even attacking the adults and killing them. Hordes of mice. So they're waiting. This is the weirdest thing. South Africa, waiting for them to leave the nesting ground, and they're going to bomb the island in an effort to exterminate the mice. That's how desperate they are. And Jane says there's a place in South Carolina, they have 3,000 wild tattooed monkeys. Plane crashed there a few years ago. And when you take a species out of its natural habitat and reintroduce it somewhere else where it doesn't have any natural predators, it's extremely destructive. Look what happened in Australia with the damn frogs many, many years ago. The species were moved around by people who weren't thinking, either on purpose or by accident, and caused an overrun population. And this is what happens. It could cause the extinction of the albatross and the other birds that mostly use those islands. And they're so desperate, they're going to bomb the island. They're going to bomb the island as a result. I tell you, humans poison everything they touch. It's insane. Bob says, see the mice in their million hordes from Ibiza, the Norfolk Broads. And Prepson said, didn't Australia have a bunny problem also? That sounds familiar. I'm not 100% sure, though. I'm not 100% sure. And Tuck says cane toads, they're widespread in South Florida as well. You got to be really careful with those invasive species. Again, when you don't, if there's no natural predators, and Bob explains to us it's a David, that he was quoting a David, that someone was quoting the David Bowie lyric back there. People are responsible for that, or irresponsible, as the case may be. Western Journal article here. Western Journal article here. This is important to consider. So mayor has woman who raised concerns about a city official arrested at the city council meeting. This is in Arizona, okay? This is the city council, and you know how it is. You come up, there's a little clock in the front of the desk, and you get, 2 or 3 minutes, depending upon what format, to speak your piece while the panel sits up here looking down on you and ignoring everything you say. And then you're told to leave, and then the next person comes up and airs some grievances. You've seen this before. Parent-teacher meetings, city council meetings, that's how it works. But something interesting happened in Arizona here. The community of Surprise, Arizona, has become a First Amendment battlefield after its mayor last week had an activist arrested, claiming city rules forbade her to voice a complaint in public. I have certain inalienable rights, and they were not only trampled on, but the mayor essentially weaponized the police force to shut me up that night. Quote by Rebecca Massey. Okay. Massey was charged with suspicion of trespassing. What is suspicion of trespassing? She's standing at the podium or she's not. A class 3 misdemeanor and a class 1 misdemeanor charge of resisting arrest and obscuring government operations, according to the Arizona Republic. She asked the police officer to let her go, but she did not physically resist. So that's a bullshit charge too. As shown in a post on X, Mayor Skip Hall interrupted Massey, telling her the city's rules for the public comment part of the city council meetings ban complaints about individual city employees. So what actually happened here? Okay, she was questioning their salaries. She was questioning their salaries. Fluke says, let's hope they won't introduce cats to exterminate all the mice. No kidding. No kidding. And Prepson says they used to work as in a finer area of Sweden with general area maintenance. It was just insane the amount of trash that people from non-skiing nations pelted everywhere. Diapers especially. Trash attacks rodents and other problems. It doesn't surprise me because people are disgusting. She was questioning their salaries. Okay. It says, where are we here? The mayor had her arrested. I can't, yeah, that's kind of hard to discern what's going on here. This is all factual information, she said. She was quoting their salaries and asking them about it. You're violating my First Amendment rights. Quote, it doesn't matter. This is what you agreed to when first speaking, he said before the two argued over whether the city policy was unconstitutional. Hall summoned the police. Do not touch me, Massey said to the officer, who put her hands behind her back and escorted her out of the conference room. Why am I being detained? She asked. Let go of me, she said. But basically, she was questioning why they were making as much money as they were. And rather than ignoring her or answering the question, they chose to have her arrested and escorted out instead. So much for freedom of speech, so much for your constitutional rights. You can't question us. We're the government authority. Go your ass to jail. And Brian made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Again, goes a long way to helping us with our felines, the cats that we're taking care of. Always appreciated. But with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I will go ahead and start signing off. Thanks again to Brian for helping the channel out. You are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and Prepper University on YouTube. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com. Thank you, everybody who was able to join us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation.